Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing a part 2 of the how your childhood affects your adult relationships video that I did, because I got so much positive feedback. I figured that I would extend it because there were a few more childhood scenarios and experiences that I wanted to cover. So first up is the spoiled child. Now this is a child that their parents gave them everything they ever wanted. They never got told no, and whenever they did get told no, they would throw a tantrum. What this looks like in adulthood is that in relationships, they usually can't accept no from their spouses or their friends or co-workers or anything else. So you can imagine how that plays like a key role in the dynamic of their relationship. People basically get sick of them and get sick of the fact that they always have to have their way. It's their way or the highway. And then on top of that, they don't really take their partner's needs into consideration at all. Everything is centered around them, and they kind of forget that other people even exist. And also, the downside of a child being spoiled is that usually when they grow up, external factors determines their worth, because growing up they were never told no and they were given things to appease them. So none of their self-worth usually comes from within, and those children usually grow up to be very bitter and to have strained relationships. Okay, so next up is the child who experienced shame, or who still carries coarse shame with them into adulthood. Now, there is a difference between carrying guilt and carrying shame, because when you carry guilt, that means that you feel bad about something that you did and that you can move forward and make it right. But when you're carrying shame, basically it means that you feel like you're not good enough. So guilt is I did something bad, shame is I am bad. And usually that comes from living in any type of dysfunctional situation where parents tend to be emotionally or physically abusive. You can grow up to carry shame and feel like you're worthless or like you're defective, that something is wrong with you. These people who experience coarse shame that carry it into adulthood, they usually feel like they are unworthy of love, they are unworthy of respect, so they'll usually get into a relationship, most likely with an abusive partner, who they will take anything from because they don't feel like they're worth enough. Now, I do want to point out that this is different from a people pleaser, because with a people pleaser, their worth comes from the fact that they are able to give and give and give. But when you're carrying the shame, or you feel like you're defective, even if you're giving, you still feel like you're not worthy, if that makes sense. It's like the people pleaser gives and they feel like they are important because they're giving. But somebody who has deep core shame, no matter how much they give, no matter what they do, they're always feeling unworthy of love and respect. And also, what you'll see with people who carry core shame is that they don't even bother to get in a relationship. So they'll end up in a harmful relationship, or the exact opposite. They won't bother to get in one at all, because then they feel like it's going to fail. It's destined to fail anyway, so why even bother, type of thing. So then they kind of just end up alone. Next up is the overachiever or the perfectionist. In childhood, if parents put a lot of emphasis on the fact that you need to get good grades, you need to be basically they want their children to be perfect. And these children do seem to excel in school because of the pressure from their parents. But it can be a downside to this, because when they grow up, they tend to set unrealistic expectations for their partners. Now, it's good to have expectations, obviously, and it's good to have a list of things that you want in a partner and things that you don't want. But with these people, it's like every little fault that they find with somebody, they amplify it, pretty much. And they blow everything out of proportion because they're such perfectionists and overachievers. They continue that pattern throughout their life. So they want to overachieve in work, they want to overachieve in anything that they do in life. And usually that means that they will neglect their relationship in order to meet their own goals. And it's fine to be goal-oriented, but you do have to make time for the people who are important in your life, and overachievers have a hard time doing that. Also, people who are overachievers and perfectionists in childhood, when they grow up, they have a subconscious fear of failure. So no matter what they're doing, or no matter how good they're doing in their work, no matter what accomplishments they're making in life, they always feel like they're not enough, and they're continuously chasing this state of perfection that most likely you can't reach, or most likely no human being can reach. And so they're never truly satisfied or truly happy, and that goes for their friendships, their relationships, and every other aspect of their life. Okay, so next up is the approval seeker. Now, this happens in childhood when parents basically let their children know, like, you're a child, your feelings don't matter in comparison to me because I'm your parent and I'm an adult. Yeah, children are supposed to have ground rules. They're supposed to know and respect authority, but at the same time, it's important for kids to know that they have their own sense of self or their own sense of identity, and that their feelings matter as well. So when a parent dismisses a child just off the strength that you're a kid, you don't know any better, you don't know what you're talking about, that child in turn will grow up to always be seeking other people's approval, because that's what they were doing in childhood. When they had a feeling, their parents would basically be the authority figure to tell them how they're supposed to feel. And so then in turn, the child grows up and they look for everybody else to tell them how they're supposed to feel or what they're supposed to do. Basically, they're not really secure within their intuition, and they're not secure within their decision making, and so they're constantly seeking outside approval from other people. And obviously that's detrimental, because they tend to pick partners who can dictate every little thing in the relationship, and they kind of don't have a mind of their own to stand up and be like, listen, this is not what I want to do today, or I prefer something else. They never will do that, because they are constantly needing their partner's approval or validation. So then there are the children who had overbearing or overprotective parents. These children usually have a very weak sense of identity, because they've been smothered basically by their parents and their parents' rules their whole life. They haven't really got a chance to explore themselves or explore their environment or socialize as much as they may have wanted to. So what this looks like in adulthood is usually the people who, once they do get a little bit of freedom, like they go away to college or they just move out of their parents' houses, they kind of just go wild almost. Like they don't know how to practice self-control or self-discipline, because their parents were always the ones who disciplined them. They never had to have any sort of self-discipline within themselves. And also because they have such a weak sense of identity, they will become chameleons depending on who they're around. If they're around obnoxious people, they tend to become obnoxious. If they're around shy people, they tend to become shy. It's almost like they have to mesh with other people in order to form a sense of self-identity, because they never actually develop one in childhood. So basically they don't feel right or they don't feel whole unless they are in a relationship, or unless they can cling to another person or mesh with a group of people. These are usually the people who have a hard time taking risks as well, and that can also stem from the fact that they probably never got to get out and socialize much either. So they don't know how to initiate relationships, and they have a hard time relating to people. Alright guys, so I just went through all of them that was on my list. And like I said in my last video, if you can relate to anything on this list, then hopefully you can change some of these issues or grow from your childhood experiences so that your adult relationships can be much more happy and much more healthy and more stable. So subscribe down below if you have not, please.